The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, just as Ambassador Hyun-woo was finishing his coffee in the human embassy on Nexus Prime. The alien messenger, a tall creature with purple skin and 4 arms, handed him a crystal data pad that felt cold against his human fingers. "The Galactic Council requires your immediate presence," the messenger said in perfect English. Its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "The matter concerns your species' recent expansion activities." Hyun-woo read the message twice, then a third time. The words were simple, but their meaning made his stomach drop. The Vectari Empire was formally challenging humanity's right to colonize 12 star systems. They claimed humans were expanding too fast and taking resources that belonged to established galactic civilizations. The ambassador had been on Nexus Prime for 3 years now. He thought he understood how galactic politics worked. Species talked, they negotiated, they made deals. Sometimes they argued, but it rarely went beyond harsh words and trade restrictions. This felt different. This felt dangerous. Across the embassy's main hall, Jinnah looked up from her xenobiology research. She had been studying alien plant samples when she heard Hyun-woo's sharp intake of breath. As the embassy's chief science officer, she had learned to read the ambassador's moods. Right now, he looked like a man who had just seen a ghost. "What is it?" she asked, walking over to his desk. Hyun-woo handed her the data pad without a word. Jinnah's eyes widened as she read the Vectari ultimatum. "They want us to abandon 12 entire systems? That's millions of colonists. That's impossible." "Keep reading," Hyun-woo said quietly. The final paragraph made Jinnah's hands shake. If humanity refused to comply within 1 standard galactic rotation, roughly 24 Earth hours, the Vectari would take corrective military action to remove human presence from the disputed systems. "This is a declaration of war," Jinnah whispered. "No," Hyun-woo corrected her. "This is worse. This is an ultimatum from someone who thinks we're too weak to fight back." In the embassy's communications center, Tae-min was already preparing an emergency transmission to Earth. The young communications specialist had served on 3 different alien worlds, and he had never seen anything like this. His hands moved quickly over the quantum relay controls, encoding the message with humanity's highest security protocols. "Priority 1 message to Earth Command," he spoke into his headset. "Vectari Empire has issued military ultimatum. Request immediate instructions. Ambassador Hyun-woo requires direct contact with President Mi-young within 6 hours. The message would take 3 hours to reach Earth, even using the fastest quantum channels." Tae-min hoped it would be enough time for Earth's leaders to figure out what to do. He had met some Vectari traders before, and they were not known for making empty threats. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council's main chamber, Supreme Commander Velnash of the Vectari Empire stood before the assembled representatives of 47 different species. His gray skin was marked with the ritual scars of a warrior, and his 6 eyes gleamed with confidence. "The humans have ignored our previous warnings," Velnash announced to the council. "They spread across the galaxy like a disease, taking worlds without permission, building colonies without proper authorization. This ends now." Most of the alien representatives nodded in agreement. Humans were newcomers to galactic civilization. Barely 200 years since their first contact. They should know their place. They should show proper respect to species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. But in the back of the chamber, Elder Kethmaran of the Zilani race felt a cold fear growing in his ancient heart. His people had survived for 60 million years by being very careful about who they fought. They had learned hard lessons about challenging the wrong species. After the session ended, Keth Moran approached Velnash in the corridor outside the chamber. The Zelani elder moved slowly on his 6 legs, his crystalline body showing the wear of countless millennia. "Commander, may I speak with you privately?" Keth Moran asked. Velnash looked annoyed but agreed. They walked to a quiet alcove overlooking Nexus Prime's 3 purple moons. "You are making a terrible mistake," Keth Moran said without ceremony. "The humans are what we call a DEATHWORLDER species. You should not challenge them." Velnash laughed, a harsh sound like breaking rocks. "DEATHWORLDER? Those soft pink creatures?" "Elder, I think your great age has made you fearful. The humans have barely 50 warships in their entire fleet. We have 10,000. "Numbers do not matter with DEATHWORLDERs," Keth Moran said urgently. "I have seen the records of their homeworld. Massive predators, constant natural disasters, wars that lasted for decades. Commander, they evolved to survive things that would kill most galactic species in minutes. Stories to frighten children," Velnash dismissed. "If DEATHWORLDERs were so dangerous, where are they now? Why have we never encountered any?" Keth Moran's oldest eyes, the ones that had seen the rise and fall of entire civilizations, grew dark with memory. "Because they are all dead, Commander. Every DEATHWORLDER species we have found destroyed itself before reaching the stars, except for the humans. The humans are the first DEATHWORLDERs to make it this far while remaining stable." "Then they have grown soft," Velnash said with finality. "Civilization has weakened them. They will surrender when they see our fleet." As Velnash walked away, Keth Moran whispered to himself, "No, Commander. Civilization taught them to work together. That makes them more dangerous, not less." Back on Earth, Captain Sun Ho received his recall orders while his exploration ship orbited a newly discovered gas giant. The new Sol had been mapping the Outer Rim territories, looking for new worlds suitable for human colonization. Sun Ho had been excited about his discoveries. Now he felt sick. "All crew to stations," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We're returning to Earth immediately, maximum hyperspace speed." His alien crew members, a Threnody navigator, and 2 Gornathi engineers, looked at each other with growing alarm when they learned about the Vectari ultimatum. The Threnody navigator actually started trembling. "Captain," the navigator said quietly, "my people have a saying. Never corner a predator unless you are prepared to kill it completely. The Vectari do not understand what they have done." As the new Sol jumped into hyperspace, racing toward Earth at speeds that pushed the ship's engines to their limits, Sun Ho wondered why every non-human on his crew looked so afraid. The Vectari had superior numbers and technology. Logic said, humanity should be the ones who were scared. But logic, Sun Ho was about to learn, worked very differently when applied to a species that had evolved on a planet trying to kill them every single day. President Mi Young stared at the holographic display floating above the conference table in Earth's Global Defense Center. The data was clear, and it was terrifying. The Vectari Empire controlled over 3,000 star systems. Their military had been fighting wars for 2,000 years. By every logical measure, humanity was about to be crushed. "Options?" she asked the assembled military leaders. Fleet Admiral Wu Jin stood up, his face grim. "Madam President, we have 3 choices. First, we can surrender and abandon our colonies. Second, we can try to negotiate for more time. Third, we can fight." "What are our chances if we fight?" Mi Young asked. "Honestly, if this were a normal war, we would lose badly," Wu Jin admitted. But this won't be a normal war. Around the table, Earth's top military minds nodded in agreement. General Hae Jin, the planet's chief strategic planner, activated her own holographic display. It showed every human conflict from the last 500 years. The Vectari have made several critical errors, Hae Jin explained. They've studied our technology and our population numbers, but they haven't studied our history. They don't understand what kind of species they're challenging. She highlighted several conflicts on the display. The Battle of Stalingrad lasted 5 months and killed over 2 million people. The Vietnam War lasted 20 years. The war in Afghanistan lasted even longer. Madam President, humans don't just fight wars. We live them. We breathe them. We make them part of our culture. Defense Minister Kyung-soo pulled up another set of data. I've been reviewing the galactic military databases that Ambassador Hyun-woo sent us. The largest war in Vectari history lasted 6 months and resulted in 50,000 casualties. They consider that a massive, devastating conflict. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 50,000 casualties was less than a single day's losses in some human battles. There's more, Kyung-soo continued. Their military doctrine is based on technological superiority and numerical advantage. They attack in formation, announce their intentions, and expect enemy surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They've never fought anyone who refused to quit. President Mi-young made her decision. Admiral Woo Jin, activate all defense protocols. Show me what we're really capable of. Across Earth's solar system, installations that had been disguised as research stations began revealing their true purpose. The asteroid mining facility near Jupiter opened massive doors, releasing a fleet of heavily armed warships. The scientific observatory on Mars extended weapon arrays that had been hidden beneath false panels. Lieutenant Jae-hyun, serving aboard the battleship Incheon, watched in amazement as Earth's hidden military infrastructure came online. He had known his planet was well defended, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. "Sir," he asked his captain, "how long have we been building all this?" Captain Boram smiled grimly. "Since the day we made first contact with aliens, Lieutenant. Earth's leaders decided that if we ever met hostile species, we would be ready. We've spent 2 centuries preparing for this day." The Incheon itself was a perfect example of human military thinking. On the outside, it looked like a standard exploration vessel. Inside, it carried enough firepower to level a small moon. Every civilian ship in humanity's fleet had similar hidden capabilities. On Nexus Prime, Jinnah was discovering that Earth's preparations went far beyond military hardware. She had been monitoring alien communications, and the pattern was disturbing. Every species that had direct contact with humans was quietly evacuating their representatives from human space. "Tae-min," she called to the communications specialist, "have you noticed that we're suddenly very alone here?" Tae-min checked his diplomatic contacts. "You're right. The Gornathi ambassador left this morning. The Threnody trade representative canceled all his meetings. Even the Kalari cultural exchange students went home early. Ambassador Hyun-woo joined them at the communications center. He had been in meetings with other diplomats all day, trying to understand the galactic response to the Vectari ultimatum. "I think I know why everyone's leaving," he said quietly. "I just spoke with the Zilani elder, Kethmoran. He told me something that explains everything." Jinnah and Tae-min waited for him to continue. "According to galactic records, there have been 17 species classified as DEATHWORLDERs in known history. 16 of them are extinct. They either destroyed themselves in massive wars or became galactic tyrants before mysteriously vanishing. What about the 17th? Jinnah asked, though she already suspected the answer. We're the 17th, Hyunwoo said. And we're the first DEATHWORLDER species to develop spaceflight while remaining stable and cooperative. The other species don't know what that means. They're terrified. Back on Earth, Dr. So Young was presenting her research to the Global Defense Council. As humanity's leading xenopsychologist, she had spent years studying alien cultures and mindsets. The fundamental difference, she explained to the assembled leaders, is evolutionary pressure. Every other spacefaring species evolved on relatively safe worlds. Their biggest predators were small animals. Their worst natural disasters were mild storms. They developed intelligence to solve social problems, not survival problems. She brought up a holographic image of Earth. We evolved on a planet that was actively trying to kill us. Massive predators, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, asteroid impacts, diseases that could wipe out entire populations. We developed intelligence to survive, and then we used that intelligence to dominate our environment. General Hai-Jin nodded. That's why their military tactics seem so naive to us. They've never fought anyone who was desperate enough to use truly creative solutions. Exactly, So Young agreed. When they say corrective military action, they mean a limited engagement with clear objectives and minimal casualties. When we prepare for war, we prepare for total war. We prepare to do whatever it takes to survive. Commander Dongwoo of Earth's Special Operations Division had been listening quietly. Now he spoke up. Madam President, I request permission to implement Protocol 7. The room fell silent. Protocol 7 was humanity's most classified military doctrine. It had been developed by studying every human conflict in history and asking one simple question. What would happen if we applied everything we've learned about warfare to a species that had never experienced real war? Explain Protocol 7 to the Council, President Mi-young ordered. Dongwoo stood up, his expression serious. Protocol 7 assumes that our enemies will have superior technology and numbers. It compensates by using tactics that no peaceful species would consider. Asymmetric warfare, psychological operations, industrial conversion for total war production, civilian involvement in military operations. Basically, we stop fighting like galactic citizens and start fighting like humans. Casualties? Admiral Wu Jin asked. For us? Moderate. For them. Dongwoo paused. Protocol 7 is designed to break enemy morale completely. When we're done, the Vectari Empire will either surrender unconditionally or cease to exist. President Mi-young looked around the table at Earth's military leadership. These were good people, trained to protect humanity and preserve peace. But she could see something else in their eyes now. Something that had been sleeping for 2 centuries of galactic cooperation. The Predator was waking up. Implement Protocol 7, she said quietly. And may whatever gods are watching forgive us for what we're about to do. In the depths of space, the Vectari fleet was already moving toward human territory. Supreme Commander Vel-Nash was confident that this would be over quickly. The humans would see his ships and surrender. It would be a simple demonstration of Vectari power. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The first Vectari battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the human colony of New Busan with all the subtlety of a parade. 12 massive warships arranged themselves in a perfect geometric formation, their hulls gleaming silver against the black of space. They broadcast their surrender demands on every frequency, confident that the small human settlement would immediately capitulate. Colonial Administrator Seung Ho watched the alien fleet from his office window and smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "All department heads to the emergency meeting room," he announced over the colony's communication system. "Operation Hornet's Nest is now active." Within minutes, New Busan's leadership had assembled. Mining Director Yun Kyung, Security Chief Young Min, Agricultural Supervisor Hai Wan, and Transportation Coordinator Bin Woo all looked expectant, rather than afraid. They had been preparing for this day since the colony's founding. "The Vectari think they're attacking a civilian mining operation," Seung Ho told them. "They're about to learn that there's no such thing as a purely civilian human colony." The transformation began immediately. The massive asteroid processing facility, designed to break down rocks for mining, suddenly revealed its secondary purpose. Its industrial lasers could cut through solid rock in seconds. They would cut through alien hull plating even faster. Yun Kyung, the mining director, was already at her control station. "Repositioning satellites 7 through 15, she announced. "Targeting solutions locked on the 3 largest enemy vessels." In the colony's agricultural domes, Haiwan was implementing a different kind of conversion. The atmospheric processors that maintained perfect growing conditions could be adjusted to produce other gases that would be extremely unpleasant for boarding parties to breathe. "Chemical defense grid online," she reported. "If they try to land troops, they're going to have a very bad time." Meanwhile, Captain Yun Su of the defense corvette Gwangju was watching the alien formation with professional interest. Her ship was officially classified as a system patrol vessel, designed for asteroid monitoring and search and rescue operations. That was technically true, but it was also deliberately misleading. "Helm, take us to attack position 7, she ordered. "Weapons, prepare the special package." Her crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Gwangju was small compared to the Vectari warships, but it had advantages they couldn't possibly understand. It had been designed by people who assumed they would always be outnumbered and outgunned. The first indication that something was wrong came when the lead Vectari ship tried to scan the human colony. Instead of finding a simple mining operation, their sensors detected massive energy signatures from multiple sources. The industrial facilities were reading as military installations. "Commander," the Vectari sensor operator reported, "the humans appear to have concealed weapon systems throughout their colony. Our initial intelligence was incorrect." Battle Commander Torvash, leading the Vectari fleet, was confused but not concerned. "How many weapon systems?" "Sir, I count over 300 individual targeting systems, and they're all aimed at us." Before Torvash could respond, Colonial Administrator Seung Ho opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "Vectari vessels, this is New Busan Colony Command. You are in violation of human territorial space. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. After that, we will demonstrate why challenging a human colony is a bad idea." Torvash was insulted by the humans' arrogance. A minor colonial administrator was threatening a battle fleet? It was absurd. "Human colony, you will surrender immediately or face destruction. We have 12 warships with enough firepower to level your entire settlement." "Understood," Seung Ho replied calmly. "We have one colony with enough imagination to turn everyday equipment into weapons you've never seen before. Your move." The battle began when Torvash ordered his ships to advance. It ended 43 minutes later when the last Vectari vessel either exploded or fled in panic. Captain Yun-Su started the engagement by doing something no sane military commander would attempt. She flew her corvette directly at the largest enemy ship, accelerating to ramming speed, then ejected the ship's entire cargo bay at the last second while pulling a violent evasive maneuver. The cargo bay contained 50 tons of mining explosives rigged with proximity detonators. The Vectari warship's point defense systems, designed to stop missiles and torpedoes, couldn't track or target something as large and irregular as a cargo container. The explosion tore a hole in the alien ship's hull large enough to fly a shuttle through. On the colony surface, mining director Yun Kyung was coordinating an attack that redefined the concept of industrial accident. Her mining lasers, normally used to cut precise channels in asteroid rock, began carving the Vectari ships into pieces. The aliens had never faced weapons that could fire continuously for hours without reloading. But the real nightmare for the Vectari began when they tried to land troops on the colony surface. Agricultural supervisor Hai Won had turned the colony's atmospheric processors into the galaxy's most sophisticated chemical weapons laboratory. The alien soldiers found themselves breathing air that burned their lungs and blurred their vision. The agricultural domes released clouds of modified crop pesticides that were harmless to humans but toxic to Vectari physiology. Even their armor couldn't protect them from chemicals specifically designed to kill anything that wasn't human. Transportation. Coordinator Bin Wu contributed by turning the colony's cargo handling system into a kinetic bombardment network. Shipping containers filled with mining equipment became artillery shells, launched by magnetic accelerators originally designed to move freight between orbital platforms. But perhaps the most devastating aspect of the battle was psychological. The Vectari had expected to fight soldiers. Instead, they found themselves fighting farmers and miners and transport workers who had turned their entire world into a weapon. Every human on the colony was a combatant, and every piece of civilian equipment was a potential instrument of war. Young Sik, a xenopsychologist who had been studying captured Vectari communications, made a disturbing discovery during the battle. The alien soldiers weren't just losing, they were breaking down psychologically. Their entire military doctrine is based on the assumption that civilians are non-combatants, he reported to Seung-ho. They literally don't know how to fight an enemy where every person is a potential threat. The turning point came when the IC, Vectari, attempted to target the colony's civilian shelters, thinking they could force a surrender by threatening non-combatants. They discovered that humans had a very different definition of civilian shelter. The underground bunkers opened up to reveal missile batteries, operated by teenagers who had been trained to use them since childhood. The elementary school launched a swarm of hunter-killer drones built in shop class. The retirement community turned out to be staffed by former military personnel who had been looking forward to one last fight. Battle Commander Torvash sent his final transmission just before his flagship exploded. "What are you? What kind of species builds weapons into their schools and farms?" Colonial Administrator Seung-ho's response was broadcast across every communication frequency in the system. "The kind that evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill us. The kind that learned to turn anything into a weapon because the alternative was extinction. We tried to be peaceful neighbors. You decided we should be enemies instead. This is what human enemies look like." The 3 surviving Vectari ships fled the system in complete disorder. Their crews would spend the rest of their lives trying to explain to their commanders how a simple human mining colony had destroyed an entire battle fleet using converted industrial equipment. The news of the Battle of New Busan spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within hours, every spacefaring species knew that the humans had done something unprecedented. They had turned a civilian colony into a military fortress so effective that it could destroy a professional battle fleet. Nexus Prime Ambassador Hyunwoo received an emergency communication from Elder Kethmaran of the Zelani race. "Ambassador," the ancient alien said, his crystalline voice filled with a mixture of awe and terror. "Your species has just reminded the galaxy why we have the oldest rule in galactic civilization. Never challenge a DEATHWORLDER. The question now is whether the Vectari are smart enough to learn that lesson before it's too late." As reports continued to come in from New Busan, one fact became clear to every alien intelligence analyst in the galaxy. If this was what humans could do, with a small mining colony, what would they do with their actual military? The Vectari Empire was about to find out. News of the Battle of New Busan reached the Vectari homeworld 3 days later, and Supreme Commander Velnash refused to believe the initial reports. A single human colony had destroyed an entire battle fleet? It was impossible. The humans must have received secret military aid from another species. "Send the second fleet," he ordered his subordinates, and this time glass the entire planet from orbit. No ground assault, no warnings, just complete destruction. His advisors looked uncomfortable. "Sir, the galactic community is already expressing concern about our initial attack. If we destroy an entire human colony, other species might..." "Other species will learn to respect Vectari power," Velnash cut them off. "The humans got lucky once. They won't get lucky again." But luck had nothing to do with what happened at New Busan, and Fleet Admiral Wu Jin was about to prove it. From Earth's hidden command center, he watched the Vectari Second Fleet, 30 warships this time, approach the human colony of New Seoul. "All ships, implement Doctrine Omega," he broadcast to the human defense fleet. "Show them what happens when you make the same mistake twice." Captain Bo Ram of the heavy cruiser Seoul received her orders with grim satisfaction. Unlike the improvised defense at New Busan, this would be a proper military engagement. The Vectari were about to learn the difference between fighting human civilians and fighting human soldiers. "All hands, battle stations," she announced. "Target their command ship first. I want their admiral to watch his entire fleet die before we finish him." The Vectari Second Fleet approached New Seoul expecting another easy target. Instead, they found themselves facing 40 human warships that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The human vessels had been hiding in the asteroid field, their hulls covered with adaptive camouflage that made them nearly invisible. "Impossible," muttered Admiral Keshatar, commanding the Vectari force. "Our intelligence said the humans only had 50 ships total. How are there 40 ships here?" His intelligence had been wrong about many things. Humanity's total military fleet numbered over 800 vessels, all disguised as civilian craft or hidden in remote locations. The Vectari had never encountered a species that considered deception a standard military tactic. The battle began with Captain Bo Ram doing something that violated every principle of civilized warfare. She targeted the Vectari fleet's communication array first, cutting off their ability to coordinate or call for help. Then she attacked their engines, stranding them in the system. "This is barbaric," Admiral Keshatar transmitted to the human fleet. "You have trapped us here. This violates the galactic rules of warfare." Captain Bo Ram's response was broadcast on all frequencies. "You came here to commit genocide against our colony. You don't get to complain about the rules." What followed was a systematic demonstration of human military doctrine. The Vectari ships were superior individually, but they had never learned to fight as anything other than a formal battle line. The humans attacked in small groups, using coordinated tactics that confused and overwhelmed the alien formations. Lieutenant Minho, serving as a combat engineer aboard the destroyer Daegu, watched in amazement as his ship's AI identified weaknesses in Vectari ship design that the aliens themselves didn't know existed. Human computers had been analyzing alien technology for decades, looking for exactly these kinds of vulnerabilities. "Captain," Minho reported, "their shield generators are positioned to protect against frontal assault, but there's a blind spot near their engine ports. If we attack from below and behind simultaneously—" "Do it," his captain ordered. The coordinated strike disabled the Vectari flagship's shields in seconds. What happened next shocked the alien crew. Instead of destroying the helpless vessel, the human ship surrounded it and demanded surrender. "We are defeated," Admiral Keshatar transmitted, confusion clear in his voice. "Why haven't you destroyed us?" Captain Boram answered personally. "Because we're not monsters. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated according to galactic law. Continue fighting, and we'll show you what human monsters actually look like." The distinction was important to humans, but utterly alien to Vectari thinking. In their culture, defeat meant death. The concept of honorable surrender was as foreign to them as their concept of formal battle was to humans. Meanwhile, on dozens of other worlds, the effects of humanity's military response were spreading throughout the galaxy. Sejun, Earth's diplomatic attaché, found himself dealing with an unexpected problem. Alien species were requesting human protection. "The Gornathi Confederacy is offering us exclusive trade rights in exchange for a defense treaty," Sejun reported to President Mi Young during an emergency video conference. "The Threnodi want to establish a formal alliance. 3 minor species have requested permission to relocate their populations to human-protected space." President Mi Young rubbed her temples. "This is getting out of hand. We wanted to defend ourselves, not become the galaxy's police force." "Ma'am," Sejun continued, "it gets stranger. The Kelvaxian hives simply evacuated all their systems adjacent to human space. They didn't ask permission or announce their intentions. They just left. Their ambassador said they were creating appropriate buffer zones between our species and theirs." Back at New Sol, the battle was entering its final phase. The Vectari Second Fleet had been completely neutralized with minimal human casualties. But Admiral Keshatar was about to learn that military defeat was only the beginning of humanity's response. "Admiral," Captain Boram said during the surrender, "negotiations. Your government sent you here to destroy civilian colonies. That makes this a war crime. We're placing you and your officers under arrest for crimes against sentient beings." "War crime?" Keshatar was genuinely confused. "We were following standard military protocol. Destroy enemy installations to force surrender." "That's the problem," Boram explained. "What you call standard military protocol is what we call genocide, and we take genocide very seriously." The captured Vectari crews were transported to secure facilities where they encountered something completely outside their experience: human interrogation techniques. The humans didn't torture or threaten their prisoners. Instead, they used psychological analysis and social pressure to extract information. Dr. Hyo Min, a human psychologist specializing in alien behavior, interviewed Admiral Keshatar personally. Within 6 hours, she had a complete understanding of Vectari military doctrine, fleet positions, and strategic planning. "They're not evil," she reported to Fleet Admiral Wu Jin. "They're just completely unprepared for real warfare. Their entire military is based on the assumption that superior technology guarantees victory. They've never fought anyone who refused to surrender when outnumbered." "What about their home defense fleet?" Wu Jin asked. 8,000 ships, Hyo-min replied. All concentrated around their home world in a defensive formation that hasn't changed in 500 years. They're expecting us to attack them the same way they attacked us, head-on assault with overwhelming force. Wu Jin smiled grimly. Then they're going to be very surprised. On the Vectari homeworld, Supreme Commander Velnash was indeed preparing for a direct assault. He had recalled every ship in the Empire to defend the capital system. His strategy was simple. Use massive numerical superiority to crush the human fleet when it arrived. He had no idea that humanity's definition of attack was very different from his own. Commander Dongwu's special operations teams were already infiltrating Vectari space, not to attack military targets, but to deliver a message that would end the war without firing another shot. The message was simple. We know where you live. We know how to reach you. We know how to hurt you. Stop this war now, or discover what human creativity can accomplish when applied to an enemy's destruction. To prove the point, human agents simultaneously disabled the communication networks on 50 Vectari worlds. They didn't destroy anything or hurt anyone. They simply demonstrated that humanity could reach any target in the Vectari Empire whenever they wanted. The psychological impact was devastating. The Vectari had spent 2,000 years believing that their military superiority made them invincible. Now they discovered that an enemy with inferior technology could strike at the heart of their empire without warning. Elder Kethmaran, watching these events unfold from Nexus Prime, sent a message to his own government. The humans have done something we thought impossible. They have fought a war without losing their souls. They are victorious but not vengeful, powerful but not tyrannical. The galaxy is about to change, and we must decide whether we want to be their allies or their obstacles. As the Vectari Empire began to crumble from within, with subject species rising in rebellion and entire fleets defecting rather than fight humans, one truth became clear to every intelligence agency in the galaxy. Humanity had not just won a war. They had redefined what war could be. The DEATHWORLDERs had finally arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. Captain Boram's fleet arrived at the Vectari homeworld to find chaos. The massive orbital defense platforms that should have challenged them were silent. The 8,000 ships of the home fleet floated in perfect formation, but they weren't moving. They weren't even powered up. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Insu from the intelligence station, "we're receiving hundreds of surrender transmissions, not just from military vessels, but from civilian governments throughout the system." Boram studied the tactical display in disbelief. "They're surrendering without a fight." "It's worse than that, Captain," Insu continued. "According to these messages, the Vectari Empire is collapsing. Subject species across their territory are declaring independence. Military commanders are refusing orders. Some worlds are requesting human protection. On the bridge of the Vectari flagship Eternal Glory, Supreme Commander Velnash sat alone in his command chair, staring at reports that made no sense. His empire was falling apart, and he hadn't even seen the human fleet until they arrived in his home system. "Commander," his communications officer reported with a trembling voice, "the humans are requesting to speak with you directly. Put them through," Velnash said quietly. Captain Boram's image appeared on the main screen, and Velnash was surprised by what he saw. The human captain looked tired and sad, not triumphant. She spoke with respect, not arrogance. "Supreme Commander, I am Captain Boram of the Earth Defense Force. I have been authorized to discuss terms for ending this conflict." "Terms?" Velnash laughed bitterly. "Captain, You have destroyed my empire without firing a shot at my homeworld. What terms could there possibly be? Reconstruction, Boram said simply. The galaxy needs the Vectari to exist as a stable, peaceful civilization. We're here to help you rebuild, not to conquer you. For the first time in his life, Velnash was speechless. The humans had defeated his military, shattered his empire, and demonstrated their ability to strike anywhere in his territory. Now they were offering to help rebuild what they had destroyed? I don't understand, he admitted. You could take everything. Why would you help us? Boram's expression softened. Because that's what humans do, Commander. We fight when we have to. But we prefer to build. Your empire was built on conquest and fear. We want to help you build something better. The conversation was being broadcast across the galaxy, and the reaction was immediate. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Hyun-woo found himself dealing with a crisis he had never imagined. Dozens of species were requesting immediate meetings with human representatives. The Gornathi want to renegotiate their entire trade relationship, Jinnah reported, reading through diplomatic messages. The Threnodi are offering us exclusive access to their hyperspace technology. The Kalari want to establish joint research projects. And the smaller species? Hyun-woo asked. They want protection, Taemin answered from his communication station. Not military alliances or trade deals. They want humanity to guarantee their independence from larger empires. Hyun-woo realized that humanity had accidentally solved a problem the galaxy had struggled with for millennia. For the first time in galactic history, there was a species powerful enough to enforce peace, but stable enough to be trusted with that power. Back on Earth, President Mi-young was learning about the responsibilities that came with becoming the galaxy's dominant military power. Her advisors were briefing her on the situation throughout former Vectari space. Madam President, reported Defense Minister Kyung-soo, we have 47 different species requesting human mediation of territorial disputes. 12 species want us to guarantee their borders. 6 species are asking for help establishing democratic governments. What about the Vectari themselves? Mi-young asked. General Hae-jin answered, their military has agreed to complete disarmament in exchange for security guarantees. Commander Velnash himself has requested a personal meeting with you to discuss establishing a new form of government. They want us to help them rebuild their entire civilization, Mi-young said, the weight of responsibility clear in her voice. Are we prepared for that? Ma'am, Admiral Wu-jin said carefully, the question isn't whether we're prepared. The question is whether we can refuse. If we don't help stabilize the region, someone else will fill the power vacuum, and it might not be someone as peaceful as we are. The meeting between President Mi-young and Supreme Commander Velnash took place on a neutral space station in the border region between human and former Vectari space. Velnash arrived expecting to negotiate surrender terms. What he found was something unprecedented in galactic history. Commander, President Mi-young said as they sat across from each other in the station's conference room, humanity doesn't want to rule your people. We want to help you learn to rule yourselves peacefully. Velnash studied the human president. She was smaller than him, with none of the ritual scars or displays of power that marked Vectari leadership. Yet he had seen what her species could accomplish when threatened. Why? He asked simply. Your people could take anything they wanted from us. Why offer help instead? Mi-young smiled sadly. Because we've learned what happens when the powerful refuse to help the weak. We've seen what empires built on conquest become. Commander, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know that victory without justice just creates the seeds of future conflicts. "But you are DEATHWORLDERs," Velnash said, confusion evident in his voice. "The galactic records say that DEATHWORLDER species become tyrants or destroy themselves." "The galactic records are incomplete," Mi-young replied. "They tell you about DEATHWORLDER species that evolved alone. Humans are different. We learned to cooperate before we learned to dominate. We learned to build civilizations before we learned to destroy them. The negotiations lasted 3 days and resulted in something the galaxy had never seen. A peace treaty that included a plan for democratic reform, economic reconstruction, and gradual integration into a new interstellar community based on cooperation rather than conquest. Commander Dong-Wu of Earth's Special Operations Division found himself with a new mission. Instead of planning military strikes, he was coordinating humanitarian aid to former Vectari worlds. His teams were helping establish schools, hospitals, and communication networks rather than destroying them. "It's strange," he reported to Admiral Wu Jin. "My people trained for war, but now they're building peace. They seem to prefer it." "That's what makes us different," Wu Jin replied. "We're good at war, but we don't love it. We love what comes after war, the chance to build something better." The transformation of galactic civilization happened faster than anyone had expected. Within 6 months, the new Galactic Cooperation Council had replaced the old Galactic Council. Instead of being dominated by the largest military powers, the new organization was based on consensus and mutual aid. Elder Keth Maran of the Zelani race was appointed as the first chairman of the Cooperation Council. In his inaugural address, he spoke words that would be remembered for millennia. "For 60 million years, my people survived by avoiding conflict with dangerous species. Today, we celebrate the arrival of a species that is dangerous enough to enforce peace, but wise enough to prefer it. The age of empire is ending. The age of cooperation has begun." Ambassador Hyun Woo, now serving as humanity's representative to the Cooperation Council, found himself dealing with challenges he had never imagined. Instead of preventing wars, he was coordinating massive interstellar development projects. Instead of managing conflicts, he was organizing cultural exchanges and scientific collaborations. "We've become what we never wanted to be," he reported to President Mi-young during one of their regular communications. "We're the galaxy's guardian species." "Is that so bad?" Mi-young asked. "No," Hyun-woo admitted. "But it's terrifying. What if we make mistakes? What if we become the tyrants everyone feared we would become? Then we'll learn from those mistakes," Mi-young said firmly. "That's what humans do, Ambassador. We fail, we learn, we try again. The galaxy will have to learn to trust that we're capable of growth." The final proof of humanity's transformation came when the first Galactic Peace Corps was established. Young humans volunteered to spend years of their lives helping alien species develop technology, establish governments, and resolve conflicts peacefully. The same species that had terrified the galaxy with its military prowess was now sending its children to build schools and hospitals on alien worlds. Velnash, now serving as the elected leader of the reformed Vectari Republic, sent a message to President Mi-young on the first anniversary of their peace treaty. "We violated the oldest rule in the galaxy when we challenged a DEATHWORLDER species. We expected destruction. Instead, you taught us that the oldest rule was incomplete. The full rule should be, never challenge a DEATHWORLDER. unless you're prepared for them to accept, win completely, and then help you become better than you were. As humanity settled into its role as the galaxy's reluctant guardians, one truth became clear to every species in known space. The DEATHWORLDERs had finally arrived, and they had brought something no one expected: hope for a better future built on cooperation rather than conquest. The age of empires was over. The age of humanity had begun. And for the first time in galactic history, that was a reason for celebration, rather.